What's going on, everybody? My name's Tenebris Infinite. It's safe to say there are a lot of dichotomies in this community of Generation Zero, but one that stood the test of time is the balance between sci-fi and survivalism. Reality versus the balls to the walls madness that we could see in this game. Today, we're going to compare and talk about 3 features we could see in either of these aspects, kind of flush some ideas out, and spitball some things that would be awesome to see. I actually have enough material to do a part 2 to this video, so if you dudes enjoy this one, we can see that part 2 happen sooner rather than later. For my own opinion on the matter, I think that anything that gets added to GZ is freaking awesome, so I don't really hold to either side, and heck, if we saw both sides of this argument happen, I'd be all the happier for it. So without any further ado, let's get into these ideas here. So firstly, let's talk some survival mechanics. The first thing that comes to mind whenever you think of survival would be having food items in the game. But in my opinion, not in the aspect of your basic food items in a survival game with like some sort of hunger bar to manage. I'm saving that idea for part 2 of this video for proper flushing out. Instead, this would be more like an opportunity to give our character buffs through the use of food items. Kind of a little bit more akin to the way food is used in Final Fantasy 15, where you can eat various types of food for a buff to certain stats and aspects of your characters. It would be pretty neat as an opportunity to let some traditional Swedish food serve as a piece of the gameplay. It would give us new recipes to unlock for crafting, and give us new resources and loot sources in the game. Imagine going into a house in GZ looking to raid the kitchen, hoping you could get some sort of foodie item from the fridge to bring back to your base to craft up to get you set for a rival cleanup or a Reaper fight. Maybe you plan on farming a ton and would like to have a speed boost while you do your bunker runs. Maybe we could see ourselves raiding the concession stands in the world for Zoom candy to give us speed boosts for looting and or combat. Or fizzy pops to give us temporary explosion resistance to deal with rocket doggos and tanks. Maybe we could cook ourselves up some Raxmorgas to take into the battlefield that could serve as a full heal item. Kinda like how Semla worked, but with a higher healing potential, making the effort of putting this food together worthwhile. Food could be great in a ton of ways outside of the normal hunger meter management that you usually see in video games. But with buffs comes debuffs. The next survival aspect is one you don't actually see enough in video games. An injury system that could impede the character as they progress through combat. We could see injuries that relate to the various forms of damage in the game. Get caught out by a flamethrower or incendiary rounds? Maybe you then have suffered burns and tissue damage that makes your defenses weaker. Maybe you got sprayed by an Apoco Doggo, and now you've suffered some sort of viral infection that causes permanent health loss until it's healed. Maybe even with the new radiational damage caused by Apoco hunters, it could possibly cause radiation sickness that randomly will cause the game screen to blur and will negatively impact weapon sway. Or even more simple, getting hit by something concussive like the typical runner charge or a shockwave could cause a fracture that slows movement speed. Or getting hit by a hunter jump attack could cause lacerations that do small bits of damage to your character over time. Fixing these injuries would then lead to expanding the current healing system in GZ. On top of medkits, we could see things like splints, burn cream, and much more to deal with these injuries, providing a more in-depth way of having to calculate and prepare for combat, and also creating a system that really expands on what these different types of damage mean in-game. Now lastly, for the thing you all expect from me at this point, let's talk about base building. You dudes know I'm gonna keep advocating for this forever. Honestly, I still stand by what I said over a year ago. Base building would really add so much to this game and could expand it way past its lifetime. In a survival aspect of base building, going back to my original premise on base building where we could see stock buildings that we would place in a designated area. In a survival light, we could see these buildings being hobbled together by whatever scraps we could find. Rough wood paneling and sheet metal for walls, doors made from tarps, tents we could place to house resistance members, little crafting array setups, and storage setups. Tying back to injuries, we could maybe see an infirmary that could heal all injuries and health when used, designating a specific resistance member to that building that is specialized as a medic, thus kind of killing two birds with one stone of adding to the unnamed NPCs in the game and providing a utility to base building that we wouldn't get from your typical safe house. We could maybe see a safe place to rest to pass the night or skip the day. We could see resource automation from blue-collar NPCs, crafting us ammunition or gathering us the resources to do so ourselves. Maybe even wave defense and have our bases be kinda destructible so that they would be something we'd have to defend and take care of. And this is all just scratching the surface of what base building could actually be in Generation Zero. Now, let's delve into some kinda high concept sci-fi stuff here, my dudes. Firstly, the popular demand that may be more of a reality than you'd expect. Machine companions. Throughout the Phoenix Rising side mission, The Virus, we get a hacking tool given to us by Veronica that turns enemy doggos into friendly doggos, sadly that we still cannot pet. Maybe at some point through the plot, we'll see Veronica actually perfect this device that we then will be able to use on a doggo to turn them into some sort of a permanent ally, serving the role of either a combat aid or a mobile form of increased storage. Think kinda like Big Dog from Boston Dynamics. Maybe this doggo could even be upgraded in a variety of ways to serve what our purpose is for it. Or we could see a Hunter, Tank, or Harvey work as an ally too, each with their own various methods of customization to them. We could see things like different paint jobs for them, just adding that little extra bit of personal touch. I think with the mission The Virus, we've seen the devs kind of nod in the direction of machine allies, so this one's maybe not too far-fetched of an idea. And next up, kind of tying back to the food items, but being the sci-fi kind of other side of the coin to it, is that we could see mechanical implants and upgrades that we could apply to our character, stepping into some sort of crazy Phoenix-type augmentation chamber to give our characters permanent stat and utility boosts, but maybe being limited to something like 3 per character that are permanent after you implant them, meaning that you can't go back. Something like muscular augments that increase our carry capacity, or movement speed, or jump height. Maybe some sort of highly durable skin implant that makes us more defensive to bullets or fire or explosions. Mechanical eyeballs that could be accessed as a utility item to give us night vision, infrared, x-ray, or even tech view without the aid of binoculars. Or even nanomachines, son.
Nanomachines, son.
That provide like passive health regen or stamina. There's a huge amount of potential here, and though it really leaves the grounded feeling of GZ behind, that's kind of the point of these ideas, is to swing really strongly into those survival or sci-fi aspects that this game has. And finally, of course, base building, my dudes. Now, this kind of ties into the machine companions idea, but imagine if we could have tick companions to utilize their surprising building capabilities for the resistance. A lot of ideas carry over from the survival type base building that I was talking about previously, where you could have set buildings to designate for resistance members to utilize, but instead would be using the aesthetic of the Phoenix bases that we find throughout the world. We could gather supplies for the ticks to use, maybe even transport these resources on our newfound doggo friend, and use them to set up a more freeform approach to base building, scrapping the stock buildings and instead having enclosures and walls that we could set up, with enclosures serving the purpose of buildings and the walls being a way to organize said bases ourselves. But maybe to differentiate these bases from the Phoenix ones, we could have hues of blue in place of the red. Again, this would all be serving the utility of expanding on NPCs, creating new methods to alleviate the grind for us the players, and offering new gameplay loops of base defense and building for us all to enjoy, just like how survival-based building would expand on the exact same aspects. So there you go, my dudes, kind of a more kitchen sink approach to these idea videos that I put out. Do you dudes dig these ideas? Any of them strike you as being the best or your favorite potentially? And again, would you want to see a part 2 to this? Because I definitely could make one. I also have a poll running on my channel for survival versus sci-fi. So if you want to voice either side and kind of see where the rest of the community sits, go on over to my community tab to cast your vote and see the results. But for now, cheers folks, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.